What is up, guys? Let me just position that so you can see the full photo. Now, today is going to be a very interesting video because today I am going to talk about my official religious beliefs and what I believe in spiritually towards the story of our creation. So, religiously, I consider myself a Sumerian and a Zoroastrian. Now, if you don't know what that is, it is the well-known ancient alien theory, so let me explain it to you. So, now, out of all the many theories of creation, I believe the Sumerians make the most sense. But first, who are the Sumerians? The Sumerians are known for their belief in the ancient alien theory, a well-known TV program that's now become a meme amongst the conspiracy movement. By the name of these ancient people come from the city of Sumer in modern-day Iraq, and instead of the Quran or a scroll, their text of this theory of our creation is written in clay tablets. Much like the Ten Commandments, or how literature was first written on clay and rock instead of paper. As this was in an area, of course, the Fertile Crescent, in which the rivers of the Euphrates, the Nile, or the Indus would deposit clay deposits in sludge form that when written on or a picture of a hieroglyph, the clay then hardens to encapsulate that information in solid form after the clay marsh dries and solidifies. So the Sumerians used this method of communication of the time of which the tablets of their religion is called the Enuma Elish. So the Enuma Elish is the Bible of the Sumerians, which is made up entirely of scrolls written of hard clay tablets. Now, we know a little about the Sumerians now, and how they would write their ancient beliefs of our creation. So let's jog on ahead about the aliens, and what this has to do with aliens. Okay, so like most ancient people, these people had ancient beliefs of their own. Their creation story sort of combines evolution and spirituality together. And it's also a religion of the past, future, and present mixing. Ancient people with UFOs, which makes it so appealable, because even to this day, not even scientists can debunk this creation theory, because in order to debunk the ancient alien theory, you first have to ask questions of, are we alone in the universe or not, which scientists themselves can't prove. It's easy to debunk God, but not easy to debunk aliens, because it'd be extremely ignorant to think that out of the billions of stars, galaxies and nebulas that we, Earth, a tiny grain of salt in the entire sandbox, is the only place to hold intelligent life. Because maybe there is intelligent life, maybe microbiological life, no one knows, and because this Sumerian religion can't be disproven. It is therefore more believable until unproven, because you can't get round dissecting this religion without answering, is there life out of Earth question first. So, yeah, you can't debunk the Sumerian religion without getting into, are we alone in the universe question. So, let me just get rid of that. That's the picture. So, to cut it short, the Sumerians believed that we were still evolving. Not fully evolved, still very ape-like, primitive and animalistic. And the reason we became advanced as a species is because aliens intervened in our genetics and sped up our evolution. Now, I know the idea of aliens coming down here to fuck apes in order to make slaves may seem a bit strange to you. But if you look what we as humans are doing now, sort of creating and shagging sex robots while already having other machines do work for us, the unintelligible vending machine and all other factory computing machines will be seen as the lesser animal kingdom to the sex robots that will become the real robots once the AI become intertwined with our DNA. And we will find a way to impregnate them, speeding the intelligence of computers. See, does not seem much of a weird idea now, does it? Because we're already sort of doing it. But yeah, of course when men can find a way to have sex with as much humanoid-looking things as possible without the burdens of a relationship in response to feminism, of course they're going to look at sex robots both as a form of pleasure and a chance to reproduce. I believe the women of our species will be the first racists to these new citizens of people, knowing it will threaten their interests, and once again men will be seen as the liberators and the heroes and will free these future people once again. And the reason I mention that is because, of course, if a man can just have sex with robots of his choosing without the burdens of a relationship, of course the human population is going to go down dramatically. Just like how fertility rates in men are going down with the rampant spread in porn production online, to the point that the human race will literally become extinct. And how ironic that we ourselves will become the ancient aliens. See the trend? Because we created this half-human, half-computer robot that slowly becomes intelligent over time. However, before our extinction and dwindling population, we will coexist with them for a while to the point that this new species will mention us in their ancient books, or we will be depicted in their forms of hieroglyphs of being these god-like creatures that gave birth to them. So you could see how it's being done now, so what's stopping us from thinking that it has already been done before, and we're just repeating the process of the cycle. Once intelligent life forms, it then creates another intelligent life form to replace it. Is this a form of intellectual reproduction? Interesting. Because there was a time where us Homo sapiens were also living with another humanoid developing ape-like creature like us. You may have heard of them, the Neanderthals, that we coexisted at times and fought with at other times to the point that we outlived them. So yes, this planet has proven through bones that extremely similar creatures of ape branches can live in the exact same regions at the exact same time as each other. However, back to the Enuma Elish. So according to these tablets, we were still ape-like creatures in which aliens bred with us to speed up our evolution, and it's because of this we have the ability to enjoy music, draw pictures, create buildings, so forth. It was not from us, but these were the gifts from the gods, which once again in an earthly sense, there is a pattern of the Age of Discovery, where the Old Worlders arrived in the Americas and introduced a lot of different things to the Native Americans, who were missing all the action being isolated in a continent between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. But we know that these gods, known as the Anunnaki people, were not a predecessor that just were here before us and just created us like how we now are currently creating the robots. But they are aliens that come from a planet called Nibiru, or Planet X. Keep that in mind because I'll be mentioning Planet X a lot. So how did these aliens get from Nibiru to our little blue planet we call Earth? Well, in fact, they didn't have to travel that much of a long distance. May seem to a bit of a surprise to jump board here, as Nibiru is surprisingly in our solar system. However, it's so far out of orbit it takes 36,000 years to fully orbit the Sun. Very long time. And that's why we have never seen these aliens since. Because when the orbit came close to Earth, while Nibiru was completing its extremely long and slow annual orbit around the Sun, They were already advanced by this point anyways, and probably came here out of either curiosity to mine resources that were running out in their own planet, or they came here as scientists to collect genetic material. So why aren't any of these ancient aliens still around? Because in the Enuma Elish, it states that the Anunnaki started fleeing Earth once the Great Flood started to happen. And if that sounds familiar to you, because if you ever heard of Noah's Ark, so imagine this, Great Flood would have been when the Ice Age was coming to an end, in which the polar cap started to melt, creating a huge global flood, in which it did. And with the Anunnaki just being here temporarily, as researchers decided to head off back to Nibiru, since Nibiru was going back out into orbit again anyways, and that's why they have fled and never have been seen from again. And probably we won't see them again for the next 46,000 years when they come back to orbit, but who knows what they have done to themselves or their planet by then, if they're still even around, or now too afraid to step back on Earth, knowing that we may now have become more intelligent than they are, so best to avoid contact. Now before the Great Flood, the Enuma Elish says the Anunnaki started to take rice with them. Bags of it. I believe this rice was genetic material. And if that's the case, that means our species, or a part of us, are already living in other planets, since the Anunnaki would have taken the genetic materials with them. How interesting, there could be humans living on other planets, humans exactly like us, because the Anunnaki took our genetic material while the Great Flood was to flee the Great Flood. How interesting. Before the Great Flood, now, it's not a case that the Anunnaki look like us, it's that we look like them. Much how we designed sex robots to look like us. And in the Enuma Elish, it clearly states that at first we were made to be slaves, and then the Anunnaki started to marry us, which created tensions amongst our people. Much how like marrying a sex robot, once they become more mainstream, realistic and intelligent, would become a social taboo of today. Or how interracial marriages were once seen as a taboo when the Europeans first had Africans as slaves, but later started having children with them and marrying them, in which helped boost the Reformation. So yes, the Anunnaki were these evil, mean slave rulers at first, but then started to become more liberal over time. But supposedly they had their own slave race from their own planet first, but they rebelled, but had to destroy them, so in which they turned their attention towards us. And this is so similar to the story of the New World, where there's discovery, there is slavery. And like how the explorers first started enslaving the Native Americans, to which they then started to rebel, so they had to then be wiped out genetically by smallpox and the weaponization of alcohol, the European explorers then focused their attention to a fatherland and imported the sub-Saharans as a more obedient, weaker and manageable race at the time. Now, when you think of aliens, you probably don't picture these tall, giant, bearded, Mesopotamian wizard-like men with swirly beards. Quite the opposite, but small, skinny, short, green people with these stereotypical oval faces and large black eyes, which they're referred to as the Greys, due to their greenish-grey tone. So are the Anunnaki and the Greys related? Well, once again, I believe there is many diverse kinds of intergalactic species out there, and maybe Nibiru, while on its orbit towards Earth, before it got to Earth, interacted with another planet and did the exact same project there, and speeded up their evolution, which means we are also related to the Greys, but they're just smarter than us, more simply because that planet may have came across Nibiru's orbit first, so they're slightly ahead of the game, since most alien sightings are the Greys, while the Anunnaki are never to be seen again. That's why the Greys can reach us, but we can't reach the Greys, which must mean the Greys are rather close to us, intergalactically. I imagine the planet of the Greys is a very reptilian type of planet that's green, and the Greys were were probably these four-legged lizards. Then the Anunnaki, being the Santa Claus of space, came down and gave them intelligence.